button. Pop, persuadable. What is going on, boo-boos? We are about to talk about all of the nerfs, all of the buffs. Twitch is going crazy. I'm giving them their YouTube. They're all YouTube famous now. So I gave them permission to spam and all that stuff, because what's going to happen is we're going to talk about each character. And I also want chat to be able to give their input, because this is the first time I'm like really trying to dissect this, all right? And there's a good chance that I'm going to fuck up some of this information. So before we continue, I'm not editing the burp. I'm keeping the burp in. Fuck it, we're keeping the burp in. All right, I'd like to give a shout out to the Identity V community YouTube page, because I've been relying a lot on them for the updates, because I'm just way too fucking lazy to be a primary source. I'm just lazy. I prefer being lazy. Nobody should fuck with my sedentary lifestyle. All right, so what we're going to do real quick, we're going to lower the chat down just for a second. We're going to put this over here, and we're going to start talking about some of this. It's going to be a little tiny, and we'll keep going back and forth. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Entomologist. So we're going to read it from, again, Identity V community. This is the source that I feel is pretty reliable. Entomologist, new swarm mechanics. You can create the own swarm around you and push yourself. Change the position of the swarm generation, and by default, it does not push the Entomologist. The swarm shape has been adjusted. Now when the swarm pushes the survivor, she will always be in the center of the swarm. The time to switch between the entomologist's view and the swarm's view angle is adjusted to 10 seconds. Change the position to center of the survivor when pushed by the swarm. She is always in the center of the swarm. We're going to talk a little bit about that explanation. The entomologist has always had complex swarm management. By complex, it means garbage. To optimize this ability, we've tweaked or twerked the swarm control mechanics to help players use it more productively and push themselves. At the same time, we changed the survivor's actions when pushed by the swarm and adjusted the position and shape of the swarm to make the slowdown from it more stable. All right, so this is my interpretation. We're gonna give chat their 10 seconds. We all know that chat is more interested than persuadable, so we're gonna give them their input on this. All right, so I suggest chat to give their input to the entomologist as I'm talking about it, because as I'm talking about it, there's gonna be people who are far smarter than me also providing their input. And if anyone disagrees with me, just remember that B4U's success is also based on our ability to listen to people other than myself and our own members. So thank you everybody who always provides us input into this. So anyways, with that being said, I think that this is going to be a really good thing with Entomologist. You guys know that I've been playing Entomologist for about 2 weeks now. Been playing on rank mode, solo mode. Now there's a few problems with Entomologist, okay? One of the issues with Entomologist is when you use the bugs, you're not always in the center with the push, which means that you're not always going to absorb certain hunters' abilities. The swarm can absorb Foggy Blades from Ripper. It can absorb orbs from Axe Boy. And what happens is that if you're off-centered a little bit, sometimes it can hit you instead of your swarm. So that's a really important point. So I'm glad that you're going to be in the center of that swarm. That's what it says by the last point. Change the position to center of the survivor when pushed by the swarm. So they're always in the center of the swarm. So from my interpretation of this, I would presume that this is a better mechanic because you're more likely to have the ability to absorb those spots. Chat, you can correct me if you feel I'm wrong, but that's what I've interpreted from this. The time to switch between Entomologist's view and the swarm's view angle is adjusted to 10 seconds. So I have no idea what the fuck that means. I'm not going to pretend like I know what that means. I think, what does that mean, chat? Can you tell me? What does that end up being? Does that mean that it takes less time to activate it, or? Alright, I don't know what that fucking means. Whatever. The swarm shape has been adjusted now. When the swarm pushes the survivor, she will always be in the center. So we always talked about that. So I'm going to be interested to see if when it says the swarm shape, I wonder if it's going to be bigger. I don't know what that means, but I understand the positioning. But when it says the swarm shape, the thing to keep in mind is it going to be larger so you can block? Like, for instance, when you're on Arms Factory and you go towards Water Jug Ruins, you can use your swarm to kind of block off a section in between two objects. And when it says the shape is going to be adjusted, although it's going to change the position of the survivor, I'm wondering if that shape is going to be larger or smaller. If it's larger, then it means that you can block off more access points. That's very important for maps like Chinatown. So I'm very interested to see what that's going to happen. And of course, now when the swarm pushes, we already talked about that, change the position of the swarm generation. By default, it does not push the entomologist. All right, so all in all, I think this is going to be a good thing for the entomologist. The problem is that I need to test it in order to really analyze this. It seems like the translation is pretty much on point. But I don't, until I'm actually testing this, I'm not going to really know too much about how effective. This is one of those things where you need to try before you buy sort of aspects. All right, so we are going to move on to the next one. So, prisoner, you have one conductor charge at the start. Let's go on this. I don't know how to lower that. Let me go over here. So, prisoner, you have one conductor charge at the start. Optimize energy transfer. The loss of progress when decoding at a distance has been reduced from 10 to 20% to 5 to 15%. Explanation. The prisoner's abilities are weak early in the game, so we decided to allow him to use a strong current from the start of the game in order to increase his self-defense ability. At the same time, the power transmission loss is significantly reduced to improve the decoding progress. So now, what's really funny about this is that the reason why we don't really see prisoner being used is because the transmission progress is not that great. It's not as great as people think it is. He's better late game with the normal decoding. What's also funny is that many prisoners actually slow their own game style down based on when they early transmission, and that's one of the bigger problems. There's ways to transmit and ways not to transmit, and so the reason why we don't see prisoner in too much tournament gameplay, we did see them once, I think, in China League. On Arms Factory, a prisoner was used because of the transmission code decode loss rather. For the most part, prisoner is not used because the decoding is not that great. And also because the transmission, it really reduces so much where sometimes it's actually more beneficial for you to just decode and run to the next cipher. There's a few exceptions to that, such as when Mercenary goes in for the rescue and you hook up to the Mercenary's cipher machine in order to continue decoding. I think that this is going to be a good thing for him. He is relatively weak. It's why we don't really see too much usage of this character. I think that the loss of progress when decoding is going to be better. That means that when you decode from a far distance, instead of it being transmitted at a lower reduction or at a 10 to 20%, it's going to be reduced to 5 to 15%. I think that this is going to make prisoner much more viable. Do I think that prisoner is going to be necessarily S tier? Probably not. I think that we really got to run the data, we got to run the number, and we have to be able to see how this character is going to be utilized with this adjustment. I'd like chat to give their opinion on prisoner for sure. It's good that they'll have one conductor charge at the start in order to optimize this. But again, it's one of those things where it's good to read this, but it doesn't tell me much. It doesn't actually tell me how good this character is going to be, because again, just like the other character before this, all right, you have to try it before you buy it. And so this sounds all great and all nice, but the question is will it be enough? And I'm not really sure if it's going to be enough. It could be very beneficial, but I don't really know if this is going to replace the meta. Just because an adjustment is good for the character doesn't necessarily mean that it's good enough for the meta. And I really don't know how to do this until I actually try and experiment with the numbers to see if the optimization is going to be good enough. But I really, my gut instinct is I don't think it's going to be enough. And one of the things that I want to tell chat is stop spamming the same message over and over again. It's nice to put it out once, but you know, there's no need to spam it. We get it. All right. All right. So we're going to move to the next character. Again, I'm just giving my first reaction to these. This isn't like an in-depth response to any of this stuff, okay? And you know, we're gonna have to analyze it. I can't wait to post this on YouTube because I know that a bunch of people are gonna provide their own feedback for these characters, okay? So next one is Batter. You can now use Rampage at the start. That's really good because Batter pretty much has been sucking ass. Not the good sucking ass either. The bad sucking ass where you get an infection, you have to go to the hospital. Sucking ass after a taco night with extra hot sauce. You can use Rampage while moving. Duration increased from 20 seconds to 30 seconds. While Rampage is active, the athletic is increased up. Pallet vault and drop speed is increased from 20 to 40%. Rampage can be stopped during its action. There is difficulty in using and switching states of the Batter, therefore remove the restrictions on the use of Rampage, increased its duration, and added additional effects. For the most part, I feel like this is relatively understandable. Batter has been really underwhelming. Batter is pretty much like the person that you meet for the first time and you think that they're extraordinary. You think that they're wifey, husband, or MILF Drew potential, and then you find out that they really suck ass. And that's how Batter has been. There's been so many players that have been trying to make Batter work, kind of like an old man with Viagra, but even with the medication, it's still floppy like Squidward's nose. And that's what Batter has been. He's been really underwhelming. He hasn't been that great. I haven't found any Batter user where I'm like, oh, thank God we have a Batter. You know what I mean? Like when you're stuck on an airplane, somebody has a heart attack and you thank God that there's a doctor, or if you have a mechanical issue and you thank God for some reason that there's someone there that can fix it, or if there's some sort of person that's ready to kind of blow everything up, you have some sort of secret service agent that's willing to take down the terrorists, right? So you're thankful for that person and what their abilities are. Batter has never been like that. It's like going to the strip club and finding out that somebody's a tax accountant but is past the tax revenue era. It's like, I don't really care you're a tax accountant and I'm not at the strip club to find a tax accountant. That's what pretty much Batter has been like. Very underwhelming, and I felt like he's been pretty much useless. And so I think a lot of these adjustments are going to be good for him. I think that really he's supposed to be sort of a tight, kite, and harassing character, but he doesn't have a get out of jail for free card. He doesn't have what Mercenary has, who's going to be nerfed as well. I'm excited for that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. He doesn't have what Forward has, so they really need to amp that up to make him more doable, especially against the meta hunters, the chip hunters. He needs to be more doable for sure. And there's not really too much difficulty in using and switching states of the Batter. It's just that he sucks ass, and that's a different story. So I really think that this is going to be good with his pallet vaulting and drop speed. It's going to be relatively similar to Forward. I can't remember the numbers on my head. So the question is, will it be good enough? Again, third survivor, you got to try it before you buy it. Will it replace the meta? Really going to depend based on some of the nerfs that we see happening with Mercenary, some of the nerfs happening with Mechanic, which I don't really think is going to be enough for both of those characters. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. All right, now let's talk about Postman. Now I know a lot of you are excited about this Postman, and remember, you guys can look at the chat on the screen to see what their interpretation of a lot of this is going to be. And again, I'm going to lower this down. Okay, Postman will get to know the area. The maximum length of time it takes to deliver mails will decrease from 12 seconds to 5 seconds. Increase the maximum distance of the pounce from 15 meters to 20 meters. The movement speed of the post dog is increased from 11 meters per second to 15 meters per second. Explanation: optimize the mobility of sending post dog. Now you can send mails faster to deliver them in a timely manner and help the survivors at the right time. I think that this is gonna be better than what people are originally thinking. And the reason why I think this character is going to be better is because when you're in 4-person comms, or if you're in legendary rank mode and you have a whole bunch of people who actually know how to ping, this can be quite remarkable. So for my interpretation of this, in chat, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. From what I'm understanding from this, the mails that are sent are a lot faster. The stun from the dog is much longer, and the dog travels faster, so the hunter can't maneuver away from that. So first of all, that's amazing that the mails to your survivors are going to be sent much quicker, so you're much more useful. And I think that it's awesome that the dog is going to move faster and further, because if they only increase the meter distance, it would make no sense if they didn't increase the speed, because if they don't increase the speed of the dog, then more hunters are going to be able to avoid it. So this is rewarding the dog. This is rewarding your utility for your teammates. All right. And I think this is going to be huge for transitional kiters. I think a lot of people are underestimating how good this Postman is going to be, because I can tell you this much. If you give me the right letter as a real, like a good kiter, especially with the meta, right? Obviously I go on live feed and fuck around with the non-meta and stuff, but if you give me a letter that's going to increase my kiting potential, especially against certain hunters, I'm going to be able to transition better. I'm going to be able to use my environment better. That's a really big significant increase, and I think that's more so going to be utilized in 4-person team comms. And I'm interested to see how Postman will be used. Obviously himself, we have to see how those sending the letters to himself is going to work, if that's even a thing, because transitional kiting is so important. So when I read this, I say, this is going to help my team transitional kite, and is it also going to help myself transitional kite? That's how you overcome the dream witches. That's how you can overcome the bonbons. That's how you can overcome the sculptors, is breaking line of sight and constantly having the ability to pressing forward and rerouting to the other side of the map. So I'm interested most so far, out of all the adjustments so far that we have gone through, I am most interested in Postman and how I can use that for my team and how I can use that for myself. I feel from a gut instinct, from a 4-person team comps for later rounds, I think Postman can be very dangerous. I don't think he's going to be a round 1 necessarily, but I do think in the later rounds, round 3, round 4, round 5, there may be some great viability with him, especially when the better hunters are banned. So I'm most interested so far in him out of all the survivors that we have gone through so far. All right. We're going to move on to first officer. All right. We're going through the survivors for now. First officer, Poseidon's Watch, has been adjusted to 3 levels of action. Each launch will hypnotize the hunter within a radius of 32 to 10 to 6 meters. If the subsequent activation of the skill is not performed within 10 seconds, its effect will be terminated. After each use of the Poseidon's Watch, first officer true location will be revealed within 1 second. So after each use of the Poseidon's Watch, hunters hypnotized at level 1, 2, and 3 will see the survivor phantom with a 1 to 2 to 2 second delay. New effect, Paradise Lost. When the first officer is in an invisible state, is attacked by a hypnotized hunter, he receives a special effect that lasts 5 seconds after being hit. He doesn't fall to the ground. Hits received during this period will be counted return after 5 seconds. Explanation. The effect of using a Poseidon's Watch is weak when resistant hunters, and getting hit that breaks hypnosis does not seem like an advantage. With this adjustment, we want to improve the stability of rescues when playing as a first officer. So, I'm not gonna lie, I'm confused as fuck by this one. Let me see something. I lost chat. Hold on, where are you at? There we go. Alright. So the Poseidon's Watch, 3 levels of action. Each launch will hypnotize the hunter within a radius of 32, 10, and 6 meters. If the subsequent activation of the skill is not performed within 10 seconds, its effect will be terminated. After each use of the Poseidon... So if you can activate this correctly, you can your hypnotization last a lot longer? You'll have a 5-second tide turner, I know that, but good hunters will wait it out. Yeah, but I mean, I don't really understand the buff. I know I'm supposed to act like I know everything. That's like the thing to do as a YouTuber, but I don't really get this entirely. So like we'll get into the hunters a little later on, but can somebody provide me feedback on this first officer? Hunters hypnotize at level 1. So Poseidon's watch has been adjusted to 3 levels of action. Each launch will hypnotize. So if I launch it at 32, do I have to get within 10 to launch it again, and then 6 to launch it again? If the subsequent activation of the skill is not performed within 10 seconds, it's effective. So you have to keep activating it, right? You got to get closer and closer. And then as you get closer, your delay is longer, so it's easier to activate. Okay. Okay. Hunters hypnotized at level 1, 2, or 3. So as you activate it more, the delay is even faster. And you want to activate it the 3rd time to continue. So as you... does that mean that if you do this perfectly, your illusion can be up to 30 seconds? Does that mean that if you activate this correctly, so you go in tier 1 32 meters away, you get within 10 meters, within 10 seconds you activate it again, you get within 6 meters, you activate it again, doesn't that mean your shit's gonna be... What happens if he teleports on you? Can you just activate it 3 times right away? That's like 32 seconds of watch. Okay, so this is a big buff. And once you get it the 2nd time, your delay is 2 seconds. And then, of course, Paradise Lost. When the first officer in an invisible state is attacked by a hypnotized hunter, he receives a special effect that lasts 5 seconds after being hit. He doesn't fall to the ground. Hits received during this period. Yeah, but it doesn't. That doesn't make too much sense to me, because if you get hit and you're hypnotized, he's got a tide turner for 5 seconds. Oh, so this is like an anti-chip hunter strategy. Because if I hit you, right? So say if I'm hypnotized and I hit you, I got attack recovery. You get a little speed boost. I can't hit you in 5 seconds anyways. It don't matter. Unless you're trying to get out of the exit gate. That would matter. Or dungeon, I guess. Oh, wow. Okay. Now I'm talking about this shit. I'm starting to understand it. But against a chip hunter, they chip you once. Does that mean they can't? But if they chip you once, then they're just not going to fuck with you for 5 seconds. So if a chip hunter chips you, then they just gotta fuck off for 5 seconds and they're fine. Right? I'm probably fucking that up. Alright. Well, that's my that's gonna be good. It's gonna take a lot of skill to use though. I think. Alright. Well, I think that's gonna be pretty good. I'm gonna move on to the next one. The Mind's Eye. Hunter's location radius when moving with the cane is increased 1.5 times. So that's gonna help her be able to see through the walls. At the moment of the strike, the hunter reduces the interaction speed by 30%, 22%, 14% within the range of 80, 300, 300 meters from the Mind's Eye. The Mind's Eye self-defense ability is weak, so we've increased the backlight area of the cane hit, and at the same time added the effect of reducing the interaction speed for the hunters. So when you're with it, how long? So I'm confused. How long is the interaction speed reduced by? Someone explain this to me, right? So I get the hunter radius location. It's going to be 1 point. But at the moment of the strike, the hunter reduces the interaction speed by 30%. So is it only for the strike? Until the aura of the hunter is no longer shown. So when you slam the cane down, you can slow their interaction speed. How long is the aura shown for? Isn't that like 3 to 5 seconds? Probably like probably about 5 seconds, right? So pretty much you have to hop a window. When they're about to hop it, you cane it. And then it's gonna take their slow ass a long time to vault it. Okay, it gives her something though. Because she didn't really have much before that. So it gives her something. So this is actually gonna require Mind's Eye users to be skillful with the cane. They can't just use it. And they're not going to have to use the cane as often because they can see the hunter at an increased radius of 1.5 times. Which means that by increasing the radius by 1.5 times, you don't need to rely on the cane during the tight kite because you can see them further, which allows you to have the ability to control the cane when you need to in order to decrease the interaction speed. Makes sense. I think that NetEase is making Mind's Eye more technical. How you use your cane is important. When you hop the window and like think of Sacred Heart Ruins. You hop the window, you get a little bit of a boost. You gotta wait for him to commit to a window and you can use your cane. Interesting. Alright. Painter. The hunters look at the painting has increased from 3 to 3.5 seconds. Put-in time for painting easel has been reduced to 0.6 seconds. When the painter is drawn, he can interact with the window palettes without pressing the stop. Oh shit! Wait a minute. I gotta... Hold on. Wait a minute. Give me a second. All right. So, analyzing this, this seems broken. The stun's increasing. This ain't an adjustment. This is a full fucking buff. So you can fucking make the painting while he can this might make him A tier. I'm not gonna make the assumption he's S tier, but that's a crazy buff. What happens to the non-meta hunters? The non-meta hunters are fucked by this. No, I know they're testing it, but, you know, still. That doesn't really seem... This character's gonna be... Alright. Seems a little broke to me. Seer, when Seer is watching an alley, all survivors will hear the cry of an owl and the survivor being watched will have corresponding icon. I agree with that. That's pretty cool. The perfumer. All debuffs received while using the perfume will be removed after returning to its original place. I agree with that. Lawyer, baby! Here's the lawyer. Reduce slowdown when interacting with windows and pallets. Good! So he can stun better. He can actually tight kite. That's good for me. I'm a lawyer, man. I'm fucking happy. The map usage time adjusted from 30 to 40 seconds. Alright, listen, you guys know that I can already decimate top hunters with my lawyer if I use them correctly. The fact that I'm gonna get 40 seconds, the fact that now I can actually stun with a pallet even easier. He's still so lawyer will be better on maps with no oh shit spawns. You get an oh shit spawn, you're fucked. But all right, mechanic. I think that's really good for lawyer. God, they're making these survivors much better. Mechanic. Own decoding speed is reduced from 125 to 100%. Good. Fuck mechanic. After being injured for teammates, the decoding speed debuff is reduced from 45% player to 35%. In the case of one wounded, the decoding speed of mechanic is 65%. And in the case of two wounded, it will be 42%. Okay. The mechanic can use her own high decoding speed at the beginning of the game, significantly reducing the hunter's win rate. Therefore, we adjusted the decoding speed to weaken her initial ability while reducing the debuff so that mechanic could be useful in last stage. So it's an adjustment. This is well deserved. This is more than well deserved. This is something they should have done a long time ago. So her own decoding speed is garbage early game. Well, not garbage. It'll be normal. That's still more than enough. And now when somebody's injured, she's going to decode a little bit faster. Or when somebody's injured. So this is not that bad. It's not that bad. Yeah, okay, she's not gonna get, but half of the fucking people in duos get injured they get down in the first 30 seconds of the game. This makes you stronger. And the other good thing is that your decode is not 125%. This makes Mind's Eye more viable. It's still not better, but it makes her a little bit more viable. She's still gonna be fine. You can drop a doll and run away, die in 30 seconds, and still have your doll up, still decoding just fine. This doesn't change her strategy. The entire mechanic strategy is making sure that bot stays alive. And most good hunters, especially Dream Witch players, are going to know exactly where the mechanic is, or they'll eventually find them. So mechanic's not going to decode it. This isn't that big of a deal. In tournament gameplay, most of the time, mechanic doesn't have time to decode because that's who the hunter will go after. So really, you've dropped bot, you try to transition away because eventually the hunter's going to go after you anyways, and you decode with bot. It's not that big of a deal. And if anything, when bot goes down and you use bot twice, some hunters would leave you knowing that your late game strategy is awful because you can't decode, and this just makes you stronger. This is not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. Not against great hunters, good hunters, it's not that big of a deal. Because most good hunters are going to injure somebody fast anyways. They're going to down somebody fast anyways. Most great hunters are going to be able to locate you as a mechanic based on trial and error, or you're just trying to get away from your bot. Your bot is supposed to be your bread and butter. They didn't nerf the bot, they nerfed you. If they nerfed the bot instead of nerfing mechanic, I'd make that argument okay. But they nerfed her instead of the bot. It's fine. Mechanic doesn't need 110% or 105%. The fact that Mechanic can still decode when they're on the chair is ridiculous. And even when they're on the chair and the bot is decoding, the bot's not being affected by this. This would be a big deal if bot... I feel like the people making a big deal out of this Mechanic, with all due respect, they don't understand how the game works in the highest tiers in tournament gameplay. This doesn't... It does a little bit. It doesn't do enough. This is helping Mechanic in high tiers, because against the best of the best hunters, one, they're gonna down somebody pretty quick. They're the best hunters. They're hard. So now you're not gonna be decoding as slow with your main body. And two, if it's a Dream Witch, they're gonna go after the Mechanic. And then when they go after the Mechanic, hopefully if the bot is still alive, it doesn't matter. They don't have time to decode with their main body. So yeah, she's got an adjustment, but in the circumstances, this is gonna help higher tier Mechanic players. This helps high tier Mechanic players. This doesn't hurt them. Okay, so if somebody kites very well and doesn't get hit, that's different. Alright, so alright, that hurts them. But that doesn't happen a lot against the best of the best. But this will affect tournament gameplay, because the whole purpose of a Mechanic is when you play with rescue characters, they stay alive longer so she can decode. But usually there's not enough time that she drops her bot and transitions. The whole main purpose of a Mechanic is to keep that bot alive. That's the difference between the top 5 clans versus the bottom 25 in the world. Your ability to keep that bot alive. All right, we'll move on to the next. I think it's good. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. I think it's going to impact mid and low tiers much more than the highest of tiers. But it will affect the meta for sure. But I don't think it's that big. I think it's doable. I think it's reasonable. I think that if they nerf the bot, it would be much more significant than the main body. The whole purpose is keeping the bot alive. So this doesn't really address the main issue, because bot's still going to be crazy. All right, Wildling. Boar at the end of each ride will lose stamina. The duration of each subsequent rides will be reduced to 65, 50, 40, 30 seconds, a minimum 30 seconds of riding. If Wildling is interrupted during a riding state, the cooldown will be 60 seconds. There are more Wildling players, and we are concerned about the experience caused by some of the characteristics of the character. This adjustment adjusted the boar ride time after multiple rides, hoping to reveal the advantage of riding directly over hunters rather than normal map movement. This is fine. This is fine, because if you can get a Wildling to early game boar. So currently right now you go against a Wildling. All they're going to do is they're going to get on their boar, and there's nothing you can do as a hunter. You just move on, right? In this case, this can encourage the hunter to engage with the Wildling until they actually boar, because then they're going to lose. There's going to be a consequence to... I never understood how Wildling was the way that he was, because he had unlimited use of his boar. There should be a consequence to having that ability other than just decoding. Right? We know that his decode and debuff got buffed. It used to be 40%. I think now it's 30%. But what we're seeing in competition game mode is that he's pretty much invincible among the higher tiers. Okay? So the thing is that every time you use your ability, you as a Wildling player should be punished. I agree with this. I think that there's nothing wrong with this at all. I think that this makes perfect sense. I have no complaints about this. Mercenary. The duration of sitting on the rocket chair will be reduced from 30 to 10%. Good. Why the fuck does he have a reduced rocket speed time? He's already got 4 elbow pads, or used to. He just elbow pad away. And then if I do bad kiting as an entomologist, and I have a mercenary writing thank you because they can just elbow pad away with their brain dead ability. Good. The number of elbow pads is reduced from 4 to 3 at the start. Good. And the number of elbow pads worn by other survivors is reduced from 3 to 2. Good. So if you send your elbow pads to another survivor, you lose the efficiency of how many elbow pads there are. Great. I have no problem with this. Mercenary's long seating time and ability to accelerate and create an uncomfortable playing environment for hunters and made him almost elusive we have slightly reduced its capabilities. Good. There's nothing wrong with this. They didn't do him dirty. Mercenary has done the entire hunter community dirty for like fucking 12 seasons now. No condom dirty. That is what Mercenary, now he's getting a little fresher breath there with a pregnancy test. Good. There's consequences. Doesn't need 4 elbow pads. Again, this allows hunters to engage with a mercenary to make them use elbow pads just like a wildling to use their ability, so there's consequences late game. I have no idea how anyone can think this is bad. I have no idea. Explorer, the time for digging a note is increased by 5 seconds. Alright, that sucks, but whatever. Alright, so that's the... I got nothing to say about the Explorer. Alright, I think it's valid based on the hiding, based on the people digging. This is probably going to even out the character a little bit more. I'm not going to talk about something that I don't know much about until we see the results, alright? The Explorer, the problem is that he's really good on some maps and he's not the greatest on other maps. And he's really good at hiding. He completely counters most hunters, including Sculptor, including Bloody Queen. He counters them. So the ability to hide and all that stuff, the fact that it takes 5 seconds longer to dig up a page, I think it makes sense. Alright, so give me a second. So that was the Survivor stuff. Alright. All in all, I think with the Survivors, what I'm most excited about, we have to see how Entomologist is going to be. We have to see how Prisoner is going to be. We have to see how Batter is going to be. Postman, I'm very excited about. First Officer, very excited about. Mind's Eye, excited about. Painter seems broken to me. Seer, makes sense. Perfumer, makes sense as well based on her abilities. Lawyer, I mean, he's still not going to be as good as the other characters, but I think that he can be very scary depending on the map. You know, Sacred Heart, Red Church, he'll be good on. So Sacred Heart, depending on the spawn though, some spawns fuck you over. Red Church, he's going to be a monster on depending on how you play him. The fact that I can keep kiting with 40 seconds of a map, that's amazing. It's going to depend on the chip damage of it though. Mechanic, I think that's justified. I don't think it's as big of a deal as what people are making it out to be. If it was the bot instead of the character, it'd be much more significant. Wildling makes sense. You should have a consequence to using the boar. Mercenary makes sense. He's been raw dogging all of our servers for God knows how many fucking seasons now. Explorer makes perfect sense. I think the Painter shit seems broken to me, but I could be wrong. I have no idea how that Painter is gonna last, but we'll see. Alright, so we're gonna go to the Hunter now. Alright, let's do this. Yo, by the way, thank you for the follows, guys. You guys are all gonna be on YouTube. Wait a minute. You guys, alright, here we go. We're gonna do a poll. You guys ready for a poll? How the fuck do I do a poll? Let me see. Can I do a poll? How do I do a poll? Oh, wait a minute. I think I need to do... We're gonna do a poll. Oh my god. We're gonna do a poll. Wait, let me see if I can remember how to do this. I want to do a poll. Wait a minute. Hold on, community. Don't give up on me! Don't give up on me! I don't know how to do a poll. Wait, I think I can do a poll. Let me see. Alright, here we go. We're gonna do my first poll in a long time. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Should I make my survivor video separate from the hunter video? I don't know how this works, so we're gonna see. I don't know how this works. Are you guys even voting? How does this work? All right, we got a poll, baby. We got a poll going on. Oh my God, this is cool. Do you guys want a separate video? There's gonna be 2 YouTube videos then. Vote's almost done. All right, we're gonna do another YouTube video, I think. All right, so that was the first YouTube video. All right. You guys are gonna be on 2 separate videos. I'll give you guys your center of attention in the beginning. You guys ready? We'll do it. Here we go. All right.